What if I told you that astronauts saw something in space that NASA never allowed it to be revealed? Something so shocking, so inexplicable, which could completely change everything we know about the universe and about ourselves. But why doesn't anyone talk about it? Why are reports silenced? Secret reports, interrupted recordings, unidentified signals captured by space missions. What really happens when NASA turns off the cameras? They exist: prohibited testimonies, leaked audios, and even former astronauts who hinted that they had already seen something out there. But are we prepared to know the truth? In this video, we will analyze evidence NASA doesn't want you to see, images captured directly from space, reports that were never explained, missions that were abruptly canceled without justification. Coincidence or cover-up? The answer to this mystery may lie in the astronauts themselves, who returned to Earth different from what they were before leaving. Some never spoke about their experiences again. Others hinted at hidden truths in interviews, but their words were quickly discredited. What did they see? What happened outside? The truth may be closer than we imagine. And the next few minutes will reveal details that could change everything. But why does this information never reach the public? Why do NASA and other space agencies avoid discussing these reports openly? Is there an agreement to keep these events hidden? Or are we facing something so complex that we can't even understand it? The truth is that a lot of evidence has already been leaked, but they are always quickly discredited or classified as illusions, camera failures, or even conspiracy theories. However, some of these recordings were captured live, broadcast directly from space missions before suddenly stopping. Coincidence or censorship? Space exploration has always been surrounded by secrets. And if there is something out there, the last thing they want is for humanity to find out. But if astronauts, scientists, and engineers are behind these missions, why are so many of them refused to speak about what really happens beyond Earth's orbit? That's why we need to keep looking for answers. Access to information is the only way to understand what is happening behind the scenes at NASA and space missions. Each discovery, each hidden report, each censored video may contain pieces of this great puzzle. If you want to continue following these mysteries and understand what they don't want you to know, leave a like and subscribe to the channel right now. This not only helps to bring more content like this, but also prevents this type of information from being ignored. And now, get ready, because what you're going to see next could completely change your perception of space. Let's get started. Since the beginning of the space race, humanity has looked to the stars with a mixture of fascination and fear. What exists beyond our planet? What really happens when we cross the boundaries of Earth's atmosphere and enter the unknown? Astronauts were the first to witness these responses. But can they tell you everything they saw? NASA, the agency responsible for the greatest space achievements in history, has also been accused of hiding information, of manipulating images and silencing those who try to reveal what should not be said. But how true is this? The first great wave of mysteries involving astronauts began in the 1960s with the Apollo missions. Officially, these projects aim to explore the moon, collect samples, test equipment, and pave the way for future interplanetary missions. But among the best-known reports, there are those that indicate that astronauts may have seen much more than simple lunar craters. One of the most talked-about cases is that of the astronaut Buzz Aldrin, the second man to set foot on the moon. During an interview, he'd claimed to have seen something strange accompanying the Apollo 11 mission, a bright object that seemed to follow them in space. Although NASA gave a technical explanation for the phenomenon, saying it could be a reflection or a piece of the rocket itself, many believe that Aldrin saw something that shouldn't be there, and it wasn't just on the moon that these events took place. The International Space Station, which orbits the Earth at more than 400 kilometers altitude, has also been the scene of inexplicable phenomena. Astronauts aboard the ISS have already reported mysterious lights, sounds that seem to come from outside the station, and even anomalies captured by cameras. One of the most impressive reports comes from the astronaut Leroy Zhao, who was on the ISS when he saw a formation of bright lights moving in a coordinated manner. The event was recorded. But as always happens in these cases, it was quickly discredited and forgotten. The mysteries don't stop there. We look at older historical records, we will find mentions of strange noises captured by communication radios on space missions. During the Apollo 10 mission, which served as a rehearsal for Apollo 11 astronauts, reported hearing a type of space music while flying over the far side of the moon, where communication with Earth was impossible. NASA kept these records secret for nearly 40 years before releasing them. But to this day, there is no definitive explanation for what caused these sounds. And why does NASA maintain secrecy about these occurrences? There are clear rules about what an astronaut can and cannot say to the public. Most of the strange reports are covered up by superficial scientific explanations or treated as hallucinations and deceptions. Furthermore, those who dare to speak publicly about what they saw end up being discredited, labeled conspiracists, or simply ignored. Many former astronauts who have given interviews about unusual events in space have backtracked or avoided delving into the subject. Coincidence, or a deliberate policy of secrecy to hide something much bigger? NASA and other space agencies operate with strict control over the information released. Any communication between astronauts and the base on Earth goes through filters before being made available to the public. This means that if something extraordinary happens in space, the only information we will have is that which they let us know. Videos and live streams from the ISS frequently suffer inexplicable cuts when strange objects appear in the camera's field of view. Astronaut stories are always re-explained in a way that makes them seem less impactful. But if there is nothing to hide, why is there so much control over this content? Furthermore, astronaut training itself includes strict protocols on what should and should not be disclosed. And this isn't just restricted to UFOs or mysterious apparitions. Issues such as unusual structures on the Moon, ruins detected on Mars, or signals captured in deep space are often relegated to internal reports and never become public knowledge. There is a clear pattern in which any event that challenged conventional scientific explanation is quickly silenced or discredited. And what would happen if we discovered that we were not alone? Does NASA already have this answer and just keep us in the dark? Imagine the global impact if irrefutable proof emerged tomorrow that astronauts actually found something that cannot be explained. The implications would be immense, affecting religions, governments, and even the world economy. Could this be the real reason for keeping the secret? Space exploration can be much more than just a search for scientific knowledge. It can be a game of control where only a select group of people have access to the truth. As we keep looking at the stars, waiting for signs of life, what if the answer is already right in front of us, hidden under lock and key? Now tell me, do you believe that NASA is really hiding something from the public? If you got this far, comment "The truth is out there," and let's continue this investigation together. Throughout the history of space exploration, countless astronauts have reported experiences strange, disturbing, and, to some extent, inexplicable. These stories, however, rarely reach the general public in complete form. They are muffled, distorted, or simply treated as flaws in the astronaut's own perception. But can we simply ignore the reports of highly trained people who spent years preparing for these missions? Why would someone who has spent their entire life studying science, physics, and astronomy see something impossible and simply be confused? Among the most disturbing accounts of the modern era of space exploration is that of Buzz Aldrin, the second man to set foot on the Moon during the mission Apollo 11. Aldrin claimed to have seen a bright object following the spacecraft on its journey to the Moon. According to him, It was an unidentified object that moved strangely, unlike any space debris or piece detached from the command module itself. Although NASA claimed it could have been part of the rocket that took them into space, Aldrin was never completely convinced of this explanation. In fact, his speech about what happened was interrupted several times in interviews, and he himself has stated that I would like to tell you more, but I can't. And it wasn't just Aldrin who had strange experiences in space. The astronaut Leroy Zhao, who was in International Space Station ISS, also reported a mysterious event. During a spacewalk, while floating in the vacuum of space miles from Earth, Zhao saw a series of mysterious lights moving synchronously. These lights did not belong to any known Earth craft and simply disappeared without explanation. Once again, the report was met with skepticism, and NASA claimed it could have been a reflection or a visual effect. But can we really believe that an experienced astronaut would confuse ordinary lights with something so impactful? And then we have one of the oldest and scariest reports, that of the astronaut Gordon Cooper, who participated in the Project Mercury 9. Cooper, who is known for his serious and extremely technical personality, categorically stated that saw a metallic object moving at very high speed close to the Earth during your mission. According to him, the object did not behave like any known satellite and appeared to be under intelligent control. He reported what happened to the control center. And, mysteriously, records of this event were never made public. Cooper spent years trying to expose the truth and, later in his life, he even gave interviews where he stated that governments around the world know that we are not alone. But they hide this information from the public. And these are not isolated cases. There are countless reports of astronauts who, upon returning from space, changed their stance, avoided interviews, or simply stopped talking about certain topics. There is a clear pattern where those who try to share something are discredited, called conspiracyists, or simply ignored. But what really made them change? What did they see out there? Furthermore, we cannot ignore the strange behavior of NASA itself and international space agencies. Whenever a live broadcast from the ISS captures a mysterious object approaching, transmission is cut off. This has happened countless times, and the official excuse always revolves around technical glitches or connection issues. But how can we believe this when time and time again, these cuts occur exactly at the moment when something out of the ordinary appears? And it's not just lights or objects that astronauts see. There are also reports of mysterious sounds captured in space. The Apollo 10 crew, for example, heard a sound similar to a space music while flying over the far side of the moon. This sound, which seemed like an unknown frequency, was never explained by NASA. For decades, these records were hidden until they were finally released, but without any convincing explanation as to their origin. What could be emitting these frequencies in deep space? Another intriguing point are the testimonies of astronauts who state that felt a presence while in space. Some described feeling like they were being watched, even though they were completely alone. Others mentioned hearing sounds that seemed to come from within the module itself, even when no logical source could explain them. If all this were nothing more than technical failures or mistakes, why do so many astronauts from different eras and missions report similar experiences? And why is it that whenever an astronaut retires and tries to speak openly about these events, his credibility is immediately questioned? What we can see is that there is an ongoing effort to keep certain information hidden. This is not just one or two isolated reports. There is a clear pattern of unexplained phenomena that occur during space missions and that are quickly covered up or discredited. It's NASA really had nothing to hide. Why does the official response always try to divert the topic? Space is vast, unknown, and full of secrets. If astronauts from different missions and eras reported seeing something inexplicable, would it be wise to ignore all these reports as mere misconceptions? And more than that, Has NASA already found something that cannot be revealed to the public? Now? Tell me, do you believe that astronauts saw something that was censored by NASA? If you made it this far, comment "The truth is in space," and let's continue this investigation together. In recent years, technology has allowed us to follow space missions ever more closely, providing live images and videos directly from the International Space Station. But whenever something mysterious appears on camera, there is a pattern that cannot be ignored. Transmissions are suddenly cut off, as if someone is filtering what we can and cannot see. This has already happened several times, and each new disruption raises even more suspicion about what's really going on above our heads. After all, if there's nothing to hide, why cut off the broadcast at the exact moment something strange appears? One of the most famous recordings took place in 2016, when a metal object was seen descending from Earth's orbit towards the planet. The object moved slowly and appeared to be under intelligent control, but before we could see any details, NASA interrupted transmission and claimed that it was a technical failure. This case generated a wave of speculation, with many questioning whether it could be an extraterrestrial artifact or even a secret government ship. And it wasn't the only time this happened. Over the years, countless unknown objects have been captured in ISS transmissions. And almost all of this footage has been cut abruptly, before anything more revealing can be seen. And what about the mysterious lights in space? Many of these sightings were recorded not only by ISS cameras, but also by satellites and even astronauts who were on missions. Some of these records show light patterns that don't match ordinary meteors or satellites. Some of these lights move in impossible directions, slow down and accelerate, as if they were responding to some intelligence. Skeptics try to discredit these videos, saying they are just ice particles reflecting sunlight or optical effects caused by camera lenses. But how do you explain when astronauts report seeing these same lights to the naked eye, straight from space? During Apollo missions, there are records of mysterious lights appearing near the lunar soil, flashing in a pattern that looked like not be natural. Some of these lights have been photographed and analyzed by scientists, but there has never been an official explanation. On Mars, curiosity increases even more. In 2014, the Curiosity rover captured a strange bright light appearing on the Martian horizon. NASA, once again, tried to explain it by saying that it could be a reflection in the camera lens. But the detail is that this same anomaly has already been recorded other times in different locations on Mars. How can it be just a reflex if it occurs in different positions and moments? And that brings us to one of the most intriguing themes of all: mysterious structures on the Moon and Mars. For decades, there have been theories that our natural satellite can house artificial constructions, some possibly of extraterrestrial origin or even remnants of ancient unknown civilizations. Official NASA photographs show unusual geometric formations, shaped craters perfectly hexagonal, and even shadows that suggest symmetrical towers and structures. Are they just natural formations, or is there something beyond what we are being allowed to know? One of the most impressive records came from the Apollo 15 mission. During that mission, images captured on the lunar surface revealed what appears to be an obelisk-like structure, casting a long, sharp shadow. NASA never explained this image in detail, and many believe this could be one of the biggest pieces of evidence that there is something on the Moon that we haven't been told about. Additionally, on several missions, astronauts have reported have seen strange flashes on the lunar horizon, as if something was emitting light from the surface itself. And then we arrived at Mars. Since probes began exploring the red planet, images have emerged that they just don't make sense within the official explanation that Mars is just a desert and rocky planet. Some of these images show structures that resemble pyramids, ground patterns that resemble ruins, and even what appears to be a face carved into a mountain in the famous Cydonia region. Although NASA insists this is just an effect of light and shadow, these formations continue to spark debate. After all, if they were just natural coincidences, why did they appear in such a specific pattern? Another intriguing point are the classified files that leak occasionally. In 2020, a group of hackers claimed to have accessed NASA documents that mentioned edited photographs before being released to the public. Some of these images would have been retouched to hide anomalies on the lunar and Martian surface. If this is true, what exactly is being removed before we can see it? The central question is, if there is nothing to hide, why do so many files remain inaccessible to the public? Why do ISS recordings stop whenever something strange appears? Why do astronauts, upon returning from space, refuse to talk openly about what they saw? What if this visual evidence is just the tip of the iceberg? What if NASA and other space agencies already have concrete proof that we are not alone, but they just can't disclose it? Imagine for a moment the global impact if tomorrow irrefutable proof would emerge that humanity is not alone in the universe. How would this change the way we see space, history, and even our existence? Now tell me, do you believe there is something hidden from humanity about what was actually captured in space? If you made it this far, comment the truth is in the images. And let's continue this investigation together. If there are so many reports, visual records, and testimonies from astronauts about inexplicable events in space, why does NASA insist on ignoring, denying, or simply avoiding the subject? What is so sensitive about this information that it requires absolute confidentiality? The pattern of censorship and omission on the part of space agencies raises a series of questions and opens the way for theories that make more and more sense as we analyze the facts. Does NASA really operate independently, or is it following orders from above to hide something from humanity? Are world governments complicit in a major cover-up about the existence of extraterrestrial life? What if the contact has already happened, and they simply haven't told us? The first strongest hypothesis is that NASA obeys top-secret government directives. Although the agency was created with the official purpose of exploring space for scientific and technological purposes, we cannot ignore that NASA was born in the middle of the Cold War, a period of extreme rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. The U.S. government has always had strict control over strategic information, and over the years, several leaked documents show that there is a much higher level of confidentiality than the public realizes. Some information reaches the public, but much of it remains confidential, restricted to national security circles. The question that remains is, if there is nothing to hide, why such restricted access? There are indications that NASA may have secret agreements with other world powers to keep extraterrestrial information out of the knowledge of the global population, which would explain the stance of other large space agencies such as Roscosmos Russia, ESA Europe, and CNSA China, which also avoid commenting or publishing certain discoveries. Why do none of these powers report the other if they are hiding something? Simple. If there is a secrecy pact between nations not to disclose what was actually found in space, breaking this silence would mean putting all of humanity face to face with a reality that it may not be prepared to face. And that would be exactly the second hypothesis. Secrecy exists to avoid global panic. Imagine for a moment that tomorrow, a spokesperson for NASA or the United States government officially confirms that astronauts have already found evidence of intelligent extraterrestrial life. The impact would be devastating. Religions would be questioned, economic systems could collapse, and humanity as a whole would face an unprecedented existential crisis. The world order would be destabilized overnight, as our own position in the universe would be redefined. The simple idea that we are not alone could generate panic, outrage, and an uncontrolled wave of misinformation. And perhaps that's exactly why this information remains hidden behind The scenes dot, and then we come to the most intriguing hypothesis. Of all, contact has already taken place, but was never revealed. Several declassified documents over the decades suggest that not only was there contact, but there were attempts to communicate with extraterrestrial intelligences. Some of these files, which were kept secret for decades, point to encounters that would have occurred on space missions, as well as in the exploration of the Moon and Mars. There are rumors that certain NASA missions have been purposely modified to bypass locations where strange objects have been detected, as if there was an effort to avoid direct confrontations or external interference. Furthermore, if contact has already happened, it would be no surprise that NASA had top-secret missions underway to monitor or interact with unknown life forms. After all, if there really are intelligent beings out there, it is clear that the great powers would be interested in studying them, understanding their technology, and even trying to establish communication. But what would happen if humanity discovered that governments have been in contact with extraterrestrials for years without telling us? This would be one of the biggest scandals in history. On the other hand, there are theories that NASA not only does it know of the existence of life outside Earth, but that there are technologies recovered from crashed ships that are being studied in secret. The famous Area 51 is an example of this. Although the U.S. government has admitted the existence of this top-secret military base, many believe that research into extraterrestrial technology is being conducted there. Reverse engineering of recovered objects, and even biological experiments. Could this be one of the reasons why NASA maintains so much control over its discoveries? Could they be exploring much more advanced knowledge than we imagine? Another piece of evidence that supports this theory is the constant contradictions in NASA's official reports. A classic example of this was when, for years, the agency denied the possibility of liquid water on Mars. However, in 2015, scientists finally confirmed that there were clear signs of the presence of flowing water on the Martian surface, something that conspiracy theorists have been pointing out for years. If this information took so long to be released, how much other evidence could be being hidden to this day? Additionally, reports of astronauts returning changed from their space missions are increasingly common. Some of them, like Apollo 14's Edgar Mitchell, have spent years claiming that the government is hiding the truth about extraterrestrial contacts. In interviews, Mitchell stated that senior military officials confirmed to him that alien ships have already visited Earth, and this is kept completely confidential. If even high-ranking astronauts make statements like this, how can we continue to ignore the signs? If there's one thing we can conclude from this evidence, it's that what NASA is hiding goes far beyond simple natural phenomena. Space is vast, unexplored, and full of secrets that could change everything we believe about our existence. But will this truth one day come to light? Are we getting closer to a big announcement that could revolutionize the history of humanity? Or will we continue to be kept in ignorance without knowing what really happens outside of Earth? Now tell me, do you believe that NASA already has concrete information about extraterrestrial life and is hiding it from humanity? If you've got this far, comment the big secret will be revealed, and we will continue this investigation together. What if I told you that astronauts have already tried to tell the truth and were silenced? That some of the greatest minds that have ever been in space came back transformed, with looks filled with something they couldn't or didn't want to explain. There are records of astronauts who insinuated that they saw something that defied logic, something that shouldn't be there, and that, mysteriously, his lines were altered or erased from official records. One of the most emblematic cases involves Neil Armstrong, the first man to set foot on the moon. Despite being seen as a hero and an icon of space exploration, Armstrong became a reserved and reclusive figure after his return to Earth. In a rare public appearance, he gave a cryptic speech at the White House, asserting that there are great truths protected by layers of secrecy, and that those who can peel back those layers will find surprising things. What did he mean by that? Did he know something he couldn't share? There are unconfirmed reports that during the mission Apollo 11, Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would have seen gigantic structures in the lunar soil, something that would have left them deeply impacted. But, strangely, any recording or audio that could prove this moment disappeared. Another case that raises doubts about what really happens in space is that of the astronaut Edgar Mitchell, who participated in the Apollo 14 mission. Mitchell spent much of his life trying to alert the public to hidden secrets about space exploration. In interviews, he categorically stated that the United States government knows about the presence of extraterrestrial civilizations, and that there is a systematic effort to keep it out of the reach of ordinary people. He went so far as to say that had contact with military officials who confirmed that alien ships had already visited Earth and that advanced technologies were being studied in secret. What happened next? Mitchell began to be discredited, ridiculed, and his warnings were classified as speculation without evidence. Even so, he never went back on his statements. But perhaps one of the scariest cases is that of James Irwin, Apollo 15 astronaut. Shortly after returning from the mission, Irwin completely changed his behavior. He abandoned his career. He avoided talking about what he saw in space and dedicated himself to religion in an almost obsessive way. For some, this drastic change could be interpreted as a spiritual awakening. For others, a desperate attempt to deal with something that shook him deeply. What did he see out there that made him change his life like that? And the evidence doesn't stop there. In 2005, recording of a mission to the International Space Station showed a mysterious object approaching the ISS. The video began to spread quickly across the internet, attracting media attention. But before independent experts could analyze it, the file was mysteriously removed from NASA's official servers. This type of censorship is nothing new. Over the years, there have been several records of edited videos, deleted recordings, and interrupted communications at the exact moment something strange appears. Coincidence or information control? And if all this wasn't enough to make it clear that something is being hidden, there are documents that were leaked by former NASA employees and which indicate that certain recordings of space missions undergo editing before being released to the public. The reason? Officially, it's to correct technical flaws and improve image quality. But the burning question is, what else is being removed from these recordings? What scares the most is that whenever an astronaut or someone with privileged access tries to reveal something, their statements are contradicted or simply ignored. And worse, many who dared to challenge the silence simply disappeared from the map, avoided interviews, or changed their stance in a suspicious way. Would they have been pressured to remain silent? What really happens behind the scenes on space missions? Now tell me, do you think astronauts have ever tried to reveal forbidden secrets and been silenced? If you've got this far, comment "The truth cannot be erased," and we will continue this investigation together. If astronauts really saw something in space that defies our understanding, why can't we know? What is so disturbing that it needs to be kept from humanity's knowledge? If the reports, the mysterious videos, and the attempts at silencing were not enough to arouse suspicion, just think about the impact that this revelation would have on the way we see the universe, science, and even the human condition itself. The simple fact that there is something out there that defies the laws of physics, as we know them, would be enough to force a complete reevaluation of our understanding of reality. If one day it is proven that astronauts actually witnessed something inexplicable, this means that we are not alone, and this truth would come with countless implications. Who or what would be watching us? Are they advanced civilizations that have accompanied us for centuries without completely revealing themselves? Are we part of a cosmic experiment, being monitored without knowing it? The universe, which we always believed to be an empty and unexplored space, could be much more inhabited than we imagine. Science would have to rewrite entire books, and the history of humanity would perhaps have to be reinterpreted. In the end, are we really the first intelligent beings to inhabit this universe, or just another civilization in an immensity much greater than we have ever imagined? If there are intelligent beings out there, do they see us as a primitive civilization? Do they observe our rudimentary technology and our constant wars, waiting for the right moment to interact? Or worse, have they already interacted in the past, shaped our history, influenced ancient cultures, and are now watching us from a distance to see how far we can go on our own? These questions are not just abstract reflections. They can be the greatest secret ever hidden from humanity. Imagine the impact of an official revelation from NASA, confirming that astronauts came into contact with something out of the ordinary. How would society react? Would governments collapse? Would religions have to reformulate their beliefs? The concept of us against them, so present in human conflicts, would be taken to a new level. Us, humanity, against the unknown. This would completely change our view of the world and our place in the universe. What if these intelligences are already here, interacting in ways we don't understand? If astronauts report feeling unexplained presences, if lights appear and disappear without explanation, if recordings cut out when something strange approaches the International Space Station, then why do we insist on pretending nothing is happening? Maybe because accepting this reality is scary. Perhaps because this calls into question our illusion of control over the cosmos. We've always been taught that we're at the top of the evolutionary chain. But what if, in fact, we were just a small piece in a much bigger game? And this is the question that haunts them most. What else don't we know? If astronauts returned different from their missions, some started to believe in superior forces, others disappeared from the public scene after insinuating that they saw something beyond understanding. So what does this mean for the future of space exploration? Are we approaching a time when this truth will be inevitable? With each new mission, with each new leak, we are closer to a revelation that could change everything. Now tell me, do you believe that humanity is ready to know the truth? If you got this far, comment the revelation is near, and we will continue this investigation together. If we've come this far, one thing is certain: NASA's evidence, reports, recorded anomalies, and patterns of silence cannot simply be ignored. With each new mission, with each new leaked document, more pieces of this gigantic puzzle seem to fall into place. But even so, the space agency and governments involved in space exploration continue to maintain a level of secrecy that only generates even more suspicion. Why is there so much resistance to admitting what astronauts have been suggesting for years? Are they protecting information that could radically change the way we view our own existence? Astronauts are trained to deal with extreme situations, highly qualified to interpret physical phenomena, and prepared to accurately describe what they see. When these same professionals return from their missions with reports of mysterious lights, flying objects that defy logic, and experiences that cannot be explained by the laws of science, how can we simply dismiss all of this as hallucinations or misconceptions? If one or two astronauts talked about this, we might consider it an error in perception. But what happens when multiple astronauts from different missions, times, and countries report similar experiences? NASA, whenever faced with these reports, follows a pattern: denying it, trying to divert the focus, offering generic technical explanations, or simply avoiding touching on the subject. Transmissions from the International Space Station are interrupted, just as something strange appears. Important documents disappear. Recordings are edited. Witnesses are discredited. If there's nothing to hide, why this level of control? And the most disturbing, if this information is one day revealed, how would it change our future? Could we be facing the greatest discovery in the history of humanity? Have we already gone through the first contact, and was it hidden to avoid social collapse? Or is there something even deeper? Something that is beyond our ability to understand? if. The answer to all these questions is kept under lock and key. It means that the truth is not just being hidden from the curious and conspiracy theorists, but from all of us. If governments and NASA don't think we're ready to know what really happens in space, it raises the question, what do they know that we don't know? Now, I want to know your opinion. Do you believe that NASA really hides secrets about what astronauts saw in space, or is this all just a coincidence? Comment below. If you've made it this far, leave the truth will be revealed in the comments so we can continue this investigation together. If this video made you question everything you thought you knew about NASA and space, then you're in the right place. Here, we continue to investigate the secrets that they don't want you to know, analyzing every piece of evidence, every report, and every hidden detail in space missions. If you want to continue exploring these mysteries with me, subscribe to the channel now and activate the bell so you don't miss any new videos. If astronauts have seen the unexplainable in space and NASA keeps secrets, what is really happening? On Mars, former agency scientists have begun to reveal shocking details about what was found on the red planet. Signs of life, hidden structures. What do they know that hasn't reached us yet? In the next video, you will discover reports that could change everything we think about Mars. I'll wait for you there so you can see what they don't want you to know.